in Kentucky, early season, really hoping to get a velvet buck. The wife and I are out riding around, checking fields, looking to see what we can find.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
As you can see, we're seeing plenty of does, a few small bucks here and there. Nothing giant, but doesn't mean they're not in the background somewhere, trying to locate the majority of the deer activity. A lot of times this time of year you got, this feed to bed, bed to feed pattern. These deer are really keying in on the soybeans. Soybeans are green, they look good. Some of the beans are just starting to turn yellow in a couple of areas we noticed, but majority of the beans are still pretty green. Some of them are so high you can't even see the deer standing in them. All you can do is see the ears, tops of their heads, a little bit of their back. I noticed one thing about Kentucky. These spotted fawns they got up here, they eat so well they're almost as big as our adult does in Alabama. It's crazy the body size difference of deer in Kentucky and the ones I'm used to hunting in Alabama. We do have some big does and big bucks in Alabama, but man, they just do not have the nutrition that these guys have in Kentucky in the ag country. We have very little ag country left in Alabama. It's usually up around North Alabama, maybe a few places in South, but that little buck right there, he's got one side anyway. I think a spike on the other, so usually when I see a buck this size out there with the does, I just basically pretend that they're a doe because they kind of act like does. They don't really start acting like bucks, in my opinion, until they at least turn 2.5, maybe 3.5 years old. They're definitely all buck by then. They've shifted gears and pretty much become a different animal. They're not like normal deer anymore once they get that 3.5 and 4.5 year old attitude. They completely different animals. You almost have to treat them like another animal. Lots of deer in these fields. We're pretty excited about being able to hunt Kentucky early season. I've never had the opportunity to kill a velvet buck. This will be the second time I've hunted early enough to even see velvet bucks, but I'd really like to get on one. I don't want to shoot just anything though. I want it to be something special, so gonna be a little bit picky this year. I've got my Kentucky license and I'm retired now, so the opportunity to make multiple trips to Kentucky is there, and I fully intend to take full advantage of my retirement and make more than one trip up here. Kind of hold off on something special. I've shot multiple deer in Kentucky that have been, really good bucks, but nothing super special. So we'll see if my pickiness can hold out, because I am from Alabama and I'm not used to seeing these giant deer. So temptation may get to me to shoot a mediocre so-called 120. My buddy, he holds out for 140s and above. In fact, I've seen him pass on 140s, but I guess it's a little bit different if you can live in the area. You have a lot more time to hunt. Maybe you can afford to be a little more picky. Nevertheless, we really enjoy just getting out and watching the deer. I never really get tired of this. We saw a lot of deer on this trip. And right now, it's the first evening. We're just riding around checking all the fields, and the deer pretty much out and about. It's a little bit of a cooler weather right now, but unfortunately we're getting the tail end of this little cold snap. It's going to be hot the rest of the week, so I've got 3 days to hunt in Kentucky, try to get on a velvet buck, scout, do my homework. Maybe I can get it done. I mean, that's the objective, so you guys wish me luck. Now, this is my first morning sit, and as usual, when you start hunting at the beginning of the year, you usually make all the mistakes. You know, you don't really have it all together, and I didn't have it all together on this trip. I'm covered up in deer. I'm doing an observation sit, and first thing, I get in there before daylight. I'm trying to get set up real quiet on the edge of this bean field, and like a dummy, I've got these sticks, and I sprayed them full of foam, but then I forgot to pull them back apart and clean all the excess foam out around it. So now I'm in the woods, it's dark, trying to get my sticks apart so I can hang them on a tree, and they're literally glued together. I'm practically having to take my feet and push against these sticks and halfway bang them on a tree to get them broke apart. I am not a happy camper right now. I finally get up in the tree. I done broke a sweat. I'm drenched. You could wring my shirt out with sweat. It's so hot right now. I'm watching deer. Everything's, pretty cool. Okay, I'm over my little fit from trying to get the sticks apart. But now I'm looking at a humongous soybean field, doing an observation sit, and I forgot my binos. Okay, guys, when you're doing an observation sit, it's very important that you take your binos with you. Okay, just so you know. So now I'm doing all this, trying to zoom in with a camcorder to see if I can maybe get these deer and go back later and tell what they are, if they're a buck or a doe. I did see one really, really nice buck, but unfortunately, the angle he come out into the field across the other side, there were so many tree limbs between me and him. I could not get the camcorder to focus through all that mess and find him in the viewfinder. I don't know if you guys ever self-film or not. When you got a little 3.5-inch viewfinder on a small little camcorder, it can be real difficult. Now, I did have some does come within bow range of me. It turned out to be a really fine morning, but truth is, I was unorganized, and this was a mess to start up. But I'm glad I got all that out of my system. Go ahead and make all the mistakes you can on the first 1 or 2 deer hunts. Get it all out of your system, then get you act together and start getting back in the groove. These does here, a little group of them are right under the tree close by. They keep looking over at me. And this red fox squirrel, in reddish color fox squirrel, he was all over me. I think he wanted to get in my lap. He was in the same tree I was in, and he just would not leave me alone. So between this fox squirrel making all this racket and running up and down my tree, I guess the does just figured, it's a squirrel up in that tree, and let's not pay no attention to him no more. And they pretty much just quit looking my direction, even though the squirrel was making lots of racket. And I don't think I've ever had a fox squirrel in Alabama get this close to me. I mean, he's like 3 feet away from me right now, right under the limb that I'm sitting in the tree on, and looking at me like, hey, you're in my tree, you need to get out, or I'm going to come sit in your lap. One of the two's fixing to happen. And he definitely wasn't scared of me.
Well, I fixed to cut across this power line. A deer back up yonder on the hilltop snorting. Probably bedding down, fixing to get ready to start moving this evening. I'm going to work my way up there. There's a little stage area coming off that ridge top. And deer heading to beans. So I'm going to be in the woods this evening. set up on that little stage area. Hopefully I can get one. You can kind of see how some of the deer have been pushing this back, going out. You got this big, huge bean field. This morning I set up where I could basically see this bean field, kind of an observation set. I had five does within bow range of me. A young buck up on the hill, he never would come down. I wasn't going to try to call to him because I wasn't going to shoot him. And I saw a really good buck going into this finger of woods, which I'm fixing to push my way into. Me and Mike went in there and we scouted real good and found a lot of good fresh sign. And I got my tree picked out, so I'm fixing to head in there and set up. Today's my first day in Kentucky. We got up here, and this morning I did an observation set. I sat on a big soybean field and was just observing these deer, how they moved from one ridge point to the next out in the soybeans. And I saw a really good buck, looked like maybe a shooter. And he come in on this ridge top here, side hilling it. So me and Mike came back over here and we scouted this. We scouted every ridge top out here. He's gonna be out there in an island of woods that's in the middle of a soybean field, and got corn on one side, soybean on the other. And he's gonna be doing an observatory set this evening. But I'm in a stage area. I've got deer droppings, acorns falling. They're really hitting them hard. I've got some good big tracks, big droppings, and I've got some beds over here. They've been laying here and got it wore down to the dirt. You'll see that a lot of times in a stage area where the deer come in. They'll just get real comfortable before they go out into the beans at night. Thought I saw a deer, but anyway, it's hot. Man, it's so hot. I'm drenched in sweat. If we don't get busted, it might be a good evening. I'm going to come back in here in the morning and set in the same place. I've already got this stand hung. I'm not hanging another stand. I may hunt this stand right here for about 3 days straight. And if it's I don't know. If I get busted, I'll move. But if I don't get busted and I can sit here, I think this stand will pay off. A lot of deer sign in here. Wish me luck.
I hadn't been in the stand very long and this doe come in there. I don't know if she actually heard me maybe getting up in the tree and thought she'd come down there and check out, see if there's another deer on her acorns or not, but she's sniffing the ground and hunting hard for any acorn that may have fell on the ground. These deer love these acorns when they first start hitting the ground. They'll won't bed too far from these trees and they'll just lay there in their beds, and if they hear, 4, 5, 6 acorns fall and hit the ground, a lot of times they'll get up and just walk to that tree and go ahead and sniff around, try to find them acorns and eat them before the other deer do. One good trick to remember is if you're hunting around an acorn tree, you have the opportunity to pick up a bunch of acorns and shove them down in your pockets, or you could use rocks. I've used rocks before. While you're sitting in the tree, it's really quiet in the woods, thump one of the acorns or rocks out of your pocket and try to get that thing to hit literally as many limbs as you possibly can on the way down. And any deer within hearing range, it'll get their attention, believe me. They know exactly where the acorn tree is, and they hear the acorns falling. Then you can trick them into thinking that that's the tree falling.
She did just exactly like she's supposed to do. She stopped, checked the acorns. Now she's going to the soybeans. And I didn't get busted. But she ain't 15 yard though. Pushing my limits.
It wasn't very long after she went out into the beans, some of the other deer started filtering out there as well. I didn't really get all of them on film. Some of them were on the other side of the ridge. I could barely get them. They were kind of blurry, so I cut it out. Now this is the next morning. I'm in here pretty early. I got in here quiet, believe it or not. Didn't make a lot of mistakes, so I feel pretty good about this morning. It wasn't long. This doe come out of the beans, and she's going up the ridge to bedding, but she's going to swing by and hit this acorn tree before she goes up there. And that's kind of what you wanting the deer to do, is to hit the acorns first, give you a shot opportunity. And if you set right behind me, the hill kind of drops off steep, so if a buck does come up top of the ridge and he's not really interested in the acorns, you can kind of grunt to him a little bit. Soft grunts, nothing aggressive. And a lot of times they'll turn and come over and investigate, maybe get a few acorns off the tree while they're there, give you a shot opportunity. That's my setup, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for. I'm just off wind of this tree. I got any deer that comes in behind me, I'm busted. I don't know if the acorns has the drawing power, luring power that the soybeans have. I mean, soybeans are seasonal, acorns are seasonal. Anything seasonal has a pretty strong power to lure deer to them, because the deer know it's a short-lived season and they want to take advantage of it to the best of their ability. Once the beans start turning yellow a little bit, the deer back off of them, but they'll hit them again if they're still on the fields. In the brown stage, they'll literally eat the beans. Acorns is short-lived. The food changes a lot this time of year, so deer are definitely going to take advantage of anything they can. I've heard people talk about persimmon trees being hot this time of year. I have actually seen persimmons smoking hot. Deer want to eat them like crazy in certain areas, but I've also seen certain persimmon trees that the deer wouldn't hardly touch. The only thing I've ever seen around them is coyotes. So the deer can definitely sense the difference in taste of one tree to the other, and they will prefer one acorn over another under certain trees. Now people will say white oaks are the #1 sought after acorn, but dude, I'm here to tell you, I've sat and watched deer prefer red oaks over white oaks. So I'd never say never when it comes to an acorn tree or a food source. I just try to let the deer and the deer sign tell me what they want to feed on, and I go off that. I apologize for my scratchy voice in this video. I've been sick for nearly a month, and I completely lost my voice. It's just now coming back, and I've been wanting to get a video posted back up on YouTube, but it's really hard to do a voiceover when you don't have a voice. So here I am with scratchy frog voice trying to narrate these videos to you guys. Now she seems pretty determined to pick up every single acorn that's under that tree. She definitely doesn't want to leave an acorn for another deer to come by and get. You could call her selfish, but she has determination, I'll give her that. She stayed here for probably an hour. And she's 15 yards from me, and if you've ever had a deer underneath your stand for an hour or so, you know how nerve-wracking it can be. You start getting cramped up and uncomfortable because, well, you don't want to get busted. So there's that. Kind of wishing she would just go on about her business. But instead of leaving me alone and going on about her business, she stayed there long enough for other deer to show up. So now I'm going to have multiple eyes to contend with as these other deer start easing over here to the tree. See if they can find an acre that maybe she missed. If it seems like I think acorns are a competitive food source when it comes to deer, it's because it is. These deer want to get in there and feed on these acorns, but as you can see, the body language of this older doe is going to run them off. She's not going to let these deer get close enough to eat so much as one of her acorns if she can help it. Now, if the tree was falling a little bit more heavily, she might not be as aggressive toward these other deer feeding under the tree, because I have seen as many as 14 deer feeding under one tree before. With it being early season and the acorns are just now starting to fall, well, they're pretty aggressively protecting these acorns, and I guess the more dominant doe will be the one feeding under the tree. And if a buck comes in here and he wants to feed under this tree, he'll run them all off, no doubt. These does won't stick around when a buck comes in there. So you always watch these deer and watch their body language, and if they throw their head up and they start looking a certain way, then you don't have to be looking around. They'll spot the deer before you will.
Well, that was pretty intense. Got a bunch of does feeding on the acorn tree about 10-15 yards away. She's chasing them does off. She may come back up here. I got a little buck to the right side of me feeding on a different acorn tree, but I am not recording him. There's too many leaves between me and him. She was just looking at him right then when she took off. Those does, he may come over here. He's a little velvet buck. He's pretty. He's small. I don't know if you can see that other buck over there or not. There's a daggum many leaves between me and him. He's about 40 yards over there.
Well, I was right. It wasn't long after she chased them other two does off, she started easing back up the hill, coming right back over to the tree. I mean, really? I guess she didn't want that other little velvet buck coming over eating none of her acorns. If I'm hunting in a spot that I like to hunt a lot, and I'm close by home or something, this deer right here might get targeted by me. I might actually shoot her. Now she's looking at this little velvet buck that's starting to walk around behind me, and I'm thinking, okay, this hunt's fixing to be over, because this little old bucky's going to be getting downwind of me. But it is later in the morning, and the wind's picked up a little bit, and behind me's steep. So if this little buck gets behind me, he's headed to the power line to bed down. It's really, really thick out there. He might not smell me because of the wind going over the top of his head. If it was real early in the morning and he did that, I'd probably get busted because the thermals may still be dropping. But this buck actually went all the way around behind me, and I never got busted. This kind of shows what I was talking about earlier, how deer will tell you where the other deer are. You don't really have to look around the woods as much. But I have seen times when other deer would kind of sneak up behind you, and not even the deer that you're watching noticed it. It doesn't happen often, but it's possible you see her flicking her tail and everything, because that other deer's kind of in her area, and deer do this. I don't know, it's a communication thing. They flick that tail an awful lot to give the other deer a visual. I'm over here, look at me. Or maybe they'll flick their tail trying to get the other deer to make a move. And I think what's going on right here, because this little hill's so steep, I think she lost a visual on this buck. And because you kind of see her head starting to turn, and she's getting a little bit nervous. She knows the deer's over there, but she actually lost a visual on the deer. And later on, she'll, I guess, spot the deer again, and then go back to browsing on acorns, looking for another acorn to eat. But I tell you, I was kind of getting a little bit nervous about this deer being around me for so long. I was about ready to run it off, to tell you the truth. But I don't want to get busted. I'm bound and determined to sit in this spot and not get busted. You can see at this point that this deer is actually looking really hard for that other deer. Wants to get a visual on it again at this point. And trust me, when a deer's facing your direction and they're looking for any movement that they can possibly find, you do not want to move at this point. Because if you do, you will get busted. It's imperative that you sit perfectly still when a deer's looking for another deer, motion of any kind, and they're facing your direction. They're very good at picking out motion. She obviously has lost interest in trying to find that deer. She's convinced it's gone, and it is. It's been gone for probably 5 minutes, and now she's going to get relaxed and go back to feeding on acorns again, and I've got to tolerate sitting still for a little while longer. But it's good news, I didn't get busted. Bad news, I still got a deer hanging around me that I'm not going to shoot. Now this is my afternoon hunt. I'm back in the same location. I did move my tree stand just a little bit. Not because I got busted, but because every deer I saw that morning ended up in this location, which was about 40-50 yards away from me. Even the doe that hung around me forever went through this one little spot. This little buck, he comes in, he gets really close to me. I'm sitting right next to another acorn tree that was falling, and some of the deer fed under it as they went through, but most of them just kind of passed by it. I don't know if this is the same little buck that was under the tree yesterday. I think it's a different one, but he's coming right up there to me. If you listen careful, you can hear him grunting, and you could even hear him sniffing with his nose. So you know he's pretty close when you can hear him breathing. Well, the timing on this harvest was, I guess, just perfect to run that little buck off out from underneath my tree. I guess I got a little bit too close, or he spotted it and didn't know what was going on, took off running. But they're harvesting the cornfield out there. This is going to change things a little bit.
This is day 3 of Kentucky. It has been a grind trying to find a big mature buck to hunt. I spotted one the first day, and what I did, I just come in and did an observation sit over these soybean fields, and I watched him go into this one little point. I went in there, I was covered up with deer, but nothing big on the first day. I saw 14 deer and 2 bucks. The second day I saw 10 deer and 2 bucks. This morning I adjusted my tree stand to where basically all the deer were skirting around one little corner, and I only saw 2 bucks. It's extremely windy. We got a front coming in, and I'm hoping that it'll get these deer up on their feet a little bit earlier and get them out into these beans. This big one is hanging out in this area. There's 2 of them, maybe 3, that are really nice shooters, and one of them's already in hard antlers, so I was really looking forward to getting a velvet buck. But if he comes by me, I'm not gonna pass him up. I'm gonna go ahead and put my tag on him. And Mike is down probably 100 yards or so from me right now, so we're tag teaming this deer. If he goes around that end, Mike's gonna get him. If he comes across these series of ditches, then I might get a shot at him. I'm really limited as to where I can shoot, so it's going to be interesting. Maybe it'll work out. This is like an island of woods out in a soybean field, just a little small patch, and each end connects 2 bigger wood lots, but they got to hop across soybeans to get to it on both ends. One end's cornfield, one end's soybean field, and they got a trail. There's a really steep ditch right there, and they're going up around that thing. Problem is, my wind's blowing straight to it, so if they come on that trail in this little finger of woods, I got to make a shot happen quick, or I'm gonna get busted. And then I'm trying to get a shot out into this field right here, and it's gonna be probably a 30 yard max shot. I might stretch out to, I'm not gonna shoot all the way to that ditch over there. They've been walking that ditch, paralleling it. Sometimes they get down in it, but right in there it's real thick. They have to get out of the ditch, and they always get out of the ditch on this side. So if I can maybe get them to come out on this side, spend a little time here. The wind's perfect for this side. Wish me luck.
Well, this little buck done exactly like he was supposed to. He popped up out of that ditch and come about halfway across the soybeans I was watching before I ever even spotted the deer. I'd heard something behind me and was focused that direction, thinking I had a deer sneaking in, and I heard this popping and tearing noise. I turned around and looked, and this deer's already in the soybean field eating the beans, or leaves off the beans. And that's actually what I heard. I never did even see the deer come out of the ditch, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if this was Big Boy, because I'm telling you, man, that's a good shot right there, a shot opportunity. Unfortunately, it's not Big Boy, but I guess Big Boy's younger brother, maybe, I don't know. My luck just isn't going well on this trip. I am in no way gonna let an arrow fly on this buck. Just not gonna happen. But I have enjoyed this trip. My trip has just about come to an end, so I'm fixing to head back to Alabama. Maybe next time.